Good morning. I have the pleasure to introduce myself. My name is Father Cyril Frank Borg, originally from the island of Malta. And I have the pleasure to give you some information concerning the church and the restoration of this church, about its history, back history, or rather how we started to decorate and restore this church, not to say to celebrate any services in it, but rather to keep it as a monument in the town of Haifa. And I would like to tell you about the restoration of this church during this past 14 years, when I started to improve and to restore it, not to hold services in it, but rather to keep it as a monument here in Haifa. And I have the pleasure to invite you to follow me just to see the interior of this church, the evolvement of the repairs we have done and we have accomplished during this past 14 years. And here we are at the entrance into the church. I would like to explain to you, to show you this door. This is original door which was made some 150 years ago when we started to restore this to this church, because it was completely abandoned and rather used as a storeroom, not for ourselves but for some friends who used to ask us if they could use this place, as it was not as no services were being said in this church. This was in a dilapidated state, and therefore they could use it also as a storeroom. And I would like to explain to you, this door is a very heavy door because it's solid iron and is made in such a way that is practically hermetically closed. As you see, there is a big key for this door. Well, of course, I changed it because it was easily, when it was loose, it was to be taken as a souvenir. And here it is like better than the ordinary, the modern doors. As you see, I am going to close it in 3 phases. 1, oh sorry, no, it doesn't. 2 and 3. As you see, we put it in a chain, as it is a very big key. Anybody had asked if they could take it away as a souvenir, but then it was a loss for the church itself. We are still using it, and a part of this, the key, we have also this other iron to secure it. And for further security reason, here you see how it is. This here, well, it goes up to here because we don't use it anymore. It's very difficult to bring it out, all of it, but otherwise it enters also here. There is a big hole, so the door is secure. A part that is made of iron, it has all this mechanism to be closed, as you see, so it doesn't show anything. Well, I show you here the pavement at the entrance. This is the original pavement of the church. But it happened that the ground floor and also the road, which is very nearby, is at a higher level. So it happened that in winter time, the rainwater used to come into this, into this, and enter into this church, because it's at a lower level than the ground floor on the main road. And here, as you see, it is about 15 centimeters higher than the pleasant pavement of the church, because the winter time, water comes down from the road and enters into the church as it is about 20 centimeters lower than the pavement of the main road. And this place, we call it the baptistry, that is to say, where baptisms were performed. Previously, there was also the fount where they used to have the holy water and use it in the ceremony of the baptism. Now, since in 1948, practically everything was demolished in this church. Also, the baptismal font has been removed, and what they have done with it, we don't know. Most likely they threw it away. And over here, as you see, there is a painting which represents the baptism of Jesus by St. John the Baptist. And we are at the entrance of the church. We call it the aisle, and these are the pews where the faithful sit down during the church services. And in other churches they use the chairs instead of these pews. But we found it more convenient to have pews rather than chairs in the church. And now we are approaching the sanctuary where the church services are held. Eventually, in modern churches, you will not find these pews anymore. But since we were using these pews here in the old days, so I rather kept them as a souvenir how it was many years before 1964. There is over there is the throne, which usually was used by in big ceremonies when the bishop used to come to hold services here. He used to sit in that throne. Today, it has been eliminated. In modern churches, they don't use it anymore. Things are very much simplified. Previously, they were more solemn. Only we didn't throw away the throne. Rather, we kept it as a souvenir of olden days. Also, the altar, usually it's facing the faithful sitting down on the pews. Well, today they are more simplified, and rather we follow also the old system. Over here we have this. It was the throne, as you can see it here, and usually these two these two sitting. As you see here, there are the places. Usually these are joined together with the throne. But as there is not enough room where to put also the two sitting places next to the throne, so we separated them rather for conveniency. And over here, as you see, there is a grill. This grill, there was a time, already from the other century, there were the sisters, Carmelite sisters, who used to live behind the church, and they used to come to this church for the services, and used to come down from the inside stairs and stay behind this grill to follow the services performed on the main altar. Now we will come to this side. This is where we hold the tabernacle, the holy bread. Usually it is kept in the tabernacle over there on the church. But in olden days, this tabernacle was a part of the main altar, which before 1948, the altar was made of Italian marble, but then it was demolished. And this was saved as a souvenir. You see, where inside here, usually it is closed, the holy bread for the service. These two angels eventually do not belong to the old church, but I found them at Stella Maris, and nobody was looking after them, so I thought that they would be completely destroyed, so I brought them here for the decoration of this old church. Now we don't use them, and it's rather we keep them as a decoration. We have here the background of the church, and this part is original, belonging to the primitive and original church. As you see, it is well preserved, with the central painting representing Saint Teresa of Avila and Saint Joseph. Saint Teresa of Avila, you must know that she began to organize the devotion to Saint Joseph, and that's why there is Saint Teresa and Saint Joseph, because she was the original person who began this in the Catholic Church, the devotion to Saint Joseph. And this church, it is known as the Church of Saint Joseph, Saint Joseph's Church. Now, the altar is the place where we hold the holy services. The priest usually nowadays is facing the altar, but today they use the altar, they made it topsy-turvy, and now the priest makes the services facing the congregation. Previously it was done services to the main altar, with his back at towards the congregation. These are the vestments of the altar servers, the boys who attend to the services during the divine offices. They use these to wear these sort of vestments. And then they used to accompany the priest at the altar and help him in the ceremony of the services. Here we have the big candlesticks, which we use it at Easter time. But as it is very heavy, even let us say usually there is the candle here, but we don't since we don't use it anymore, we keep it as a souvenir here. So there is no candle at present. For the lighting of the church, unfortunately we don't have any electricity fixed here, because to have the electricity you have to spoil even the walls. So I thought to leave the church just the same as I found it 14 years ago. Only that I removed all the plaster because there is great humidity. This church was built on the seashore, and the humidity, even today, that the seashore is quite far away from the site of the church, still it seeps underneath, and there is very much humidity in this place. Also the humidity seeps along the walls, because notwithstanding that we are far away from the seashore, still it seeps underneath and it spoils everything. That's why the walls of the church were plastered, but within 2-3 years' time, because of the humidity, the plaster starts falling to pieces. So I decided it's not worthwhile to make a lot of expenses to remove the old so because the plaster, because of the humidity, was always falling down, I decided to remove all the plaster from the walls and leave it on the plain stone, and it looks far better today than with the with the walls covered with plaster. Here you have this candles. Let us say this originally was donated by the government of Spain. It is of solid silver, only that it doesn't look like silver because of the humidity, and we don't clean it very often. Over here you see, down below is the grill made of iron, and up there are also other grills, because there were the Carmelite sisters when they came in before 1990 to Haifa. They were living somewhere behind the church. They used to come to the church to attend to follow the services, and they used to remain behind those grills. Also here, when they used to come to follow the service on the altar, that's why they used to stay inside there behind that grill and follow the services on the altar. We have here the picture, a photograph of the balcony as it was before 1948. Before the coming of the State of Israel. Well, and Originally it was over there, as you see, only these iron bars. What is left of the balcony, of the original balcony, because the church, it was first of all occupied by the refugees in 1948, before 1948, and also over here the church was occupied and changed into a storeroom. We were not servicing any more services here. In 1939, because of the war, also they had some trouble, the fathers servicing this church, and then later on also they abandoned completely because of the trouble here. There were very many battles fought just very nearby. This was the center of the whole church of the whole town of Haifa, and here there were very many battles after 1936, and so the fathers, they abandoned this church. They took whatever they could within a short while, and it became a storeroom. The balcony, as you see, there is only these iron bars left, but before it was serving for the choir girls over there. There was the organ, and the choir girls, they used to come through those doors and sing for the church services. Then since the church was abandoned by the fathers, everybody they were using it as a storeroom, and they removed the balcony, and only the iron bars and the two columns sustaining the balcony are what remained as a souvenir. You can see in this picture the pulpit, that is to say the place from which the priest used to go up, high up, to make his sermons and give the talks to the congregation. The priest used to come along the staircase coming from the back of this column, coming up little by little. You can see still this side from where the priest was going up to the pulpit. The pulpit was always high to dominate the congregation in the church. And from up there, he used to give the sermon and other talks to the people. Well, this is the bell, bronze bell made in Venice, which the fathers brought it sometime about 200 years ago from Venice, and we use it always in the belfry. Now, the belfry was on top of the monastery just before entering the church, and it was during the big wars between the Arabs and Jews for the occupation of Haifa. A part of the belfry was demolished, and we happened to save this bronze bell, and we keep it here as a souvenir. In 1948, because of the trouble which started in the country, also the Carmelite fathers serving this church abandoned it and rented 2 houses in the town to serve the people. But the church was completely abandoned. And since it was abandoned, The church, in a short time, it was occupied as a store, and they were using it as a storeroom. They, for instance, they took practically whatever it was. The fathers had already removed the valuables, particularly the vestments and the oil paintings, and then this was occupied by the refugees. And it remained like this till only about 14-15 years ago. They were using it for repair as a storeroom, both by the fathers and other friends who had no place where to store their equipment, so they used it as a storeroom, completely demolished. But previous to this, also the ground floor, which was made of Italian marble slabs, it was removed, of course, to use the marble slabs somewhere else. And whatever it was could be removed, it was removed. Only what remained is the back part of the altar with the columns, and nobody ever touched the altar, the back of the altar. But the altar itself was demolished. Only the paintings were removed by the fathers to save them. Then up here, as you see, there is in the ceiling, on the sanctuary has been repaired and painted over there. But this part of the aisle, well, I didn't touch it. I wanted to keep it as I found it when I came here. That was in 1950. Since the church was completely empty and occupied and used as a storerooms, it was by two great emprisers. And when I had the idea to restore this church, I didn't know where to start. For instance, in these places, on the other side, under every arch, there was an altar, but the altars were all demolished during the absence of the fathers. So when I came here, I found it, I chased out all those who were occupying the church. There was no pavement. All the marble floor and whatever was made of marble was carried away by the exactly. We cannot accuse anyone. And so when I came here, I said that it was useless to rebuild the altars. There were altars in every nave on the right and the left side, because we don't use the altars anymore except the main altar. So the main altar it is not the original one, because the original altar was made of marble, but this one is made of wood, because the marble was all taken away. So when I came here, instead of the altars, I made these showcases. As the altars were removed, instead of putting the altars any longer, because we don't use them anymore today, it is only we left the main altar in the churches. I put these showcases and collected in them all the valuables, particularly the old vestments belonging to this church. So these vestments might be about 100 to 150 years old. And these are all handmade, particularly the decorations. They are all knitted by hand. These are the old church vestments which we do not use anymore, but we still hold them. As you see, they are very valuable because they are hand knitted, and particularly some of them are very old. As you can see over here, one of these ornamentations, there is also the date 1839 or 38. We are standing now in this room which we call the vestry. Vestry, where there are the vestments, where the priests, they come to dress up the official vestments before going to the altar to hold a service. Of course, here I collected all the items, all these items you see in this room, they belong to the old church. So they have been in use in this church for at least 150 or 200, about 200 years. Now, we see certain items which are very old, like for instance this monstrance of solid silver, and there is the inscription engraved at the bottom of the monstrance. It is said that it is donated by one of the faithful to Father Julius in 1839. These are the items which the priest uses during the services. They are no more in use now. We don't use them anymore because some of them are about 150, about 200 years old. Now we have also here some old vestments. Let me see what we have all hand knitted decoration, but the best vestments, they are in the church itself. We can go and see them there. We have here a set of very old candlesticks, although you see them as they are brand new, but they are not, because I tinted them only recently because they were practically all black. But this is silver tinted. All these candlesticks. These are old vestments which very seldom we use except in great solemnities, because they are all hand knitted and decorated with golden thread. We are in this big hall. This hall, during the time when there was a community of fathers living in this church, they used to have the gatherings also with the faithful, sometimes in this big hall. This is therefore the place of the reunions for the faithful together with the fathers. Since this place, this church is no more the main parish church, we converted it like a museum. We collected all the things which belong to the old to the old community of fathers living in this house before 1939 and 1941. As you see, it's rather a museum. We are here in the hall where the Carmelite fathers used to have their reunions. Usually the fathers have a reunion at least once a month to discuss the necessities of the parish church or other necessities. So they used to gather here in this room to discuss materials and exchange their ideas. And over here you have some samples of the old documents, all written in Arabic. These are practically all of them dealing with the purchase of land property, even out of Haifa. These documents are all written in Arabic, and they are signed, usually by various witnesses. I have some old photos, particularly in the center of the wall. There is that big photo, which it was the idea of how to build this church, but it was not, the parish priest didn't like it, so he practically made it, but in a different way, is the present one. This is the photo of the old garden of the church, how it was. Today, nothing is left of it, because those who are living in the Eliyahu Hanavi road, and there are the storerooms, the shops, each one of the shopkeeper occupied a part of the garden, so the garden does not exist anymore. We Carmelite fathers, we don't use anymore this church. This church does not, we never have any special services here, except occasionally, let us say once every 3 months' time, we have a service in order to keep it going, to keep the place, to manifest to the people that we still use it, not for regular services, but only as a monument of old.